Chapter 3. Why do we think? I think and think and think. I've thought myself out of happiness 1,000,000 times, but never once into it. Jonathan Safran Foer. As humans, we have evolved with a sophisticated ability to rationalize, analyze, and think because these are key to our survival. The mind's job is to alert us to potential dangers in our environment that may threaten our lives. It does its job so well that not only will it scan our immediate surroundings for threats, but it will even reference past experiences to create predictions of possible future dangers based on our memories. None of this is wrong by any means. The mind is simply doing what it was designed to do. But while our minds do an incredible job of keeping us alive, this same ability does not allow us to thrive. For instance, in prehistoric times, many things, animals, weather, illness, were a threat to our existence. We survived because of our ability to communicate, work together, form strong social bonds, and pass down knowledge from one generation to the next. It was vital to stay in our social groups, and being thrown out of our tribe meant certain death. And so, our minds evolved to fear being judged or doing the wrong thing in order to remain accepted by others and not get kicked out of the tribe. Because of this, we sacrificed our individuality and uniqueness to fit in. We learned to not be too different or weird because it might result in us being ostracized. While this may have helped us survive, it also cost us our peace and happiness. Although our brains are still hardwired this way, we no longer live in a world where social acceptance means life and death. Losing a social bond may be painful, but it no longer means we have to fend for ourselves in the wild. Today, the question isn't whether we will survive, but whether we are happy with the time we are alive. Our quality of life is determined by the peace, fulfillment, and joy we feel on a daily basis. And yet, there is a mismatch because we are navigating today's world with a mind that is still programmed with this primitive fear. The problem is that we often forget this distinction. Our mind's duty is to keep us alive. Our consciousness's duty is to help us feel fulfilled. Our soul is the reason why we're even on this journey in the first place, to find peace within ourselves. If we keep allowing this thinking to direct our lives, we will stay in a state of fight or flight, anxiety, fear, frustration, depression, anger, resentment, and negative emotion because the mind views everything as a threat to our very existence. And it is this tendency of our minds that leads us to the torturous thinking at the root of our suffering. If you want to be free and at peace, then you will need to let go of only listening to your mind's fight or flight thinking. You are not just a product of your environment, but a co-creator of it. With this understanding, you can begin to shift your experience of reality from merely surviving to truly thriving. The path to self-actualization isn't to try to improve ourselves because we think we're not enough, but to let go of the illusion that we're not already enough as we are. Chapter 4. Thoughts versus thinking. Stop thinking and end your problems. Lao Tzu. Thoughts are the energetic, mental raw materials our minds use to understand and navigate the world. Thoughts are neutral observations, insights, or intuitive promptings that pop into our minds. A thought takes little to no effort to produce. It's something that just happens. The flip side of this is that we cannot always control what thoughts enter our minds. Thinking, on the other hand, is the judgment or opinion we have about our thoughts. Thinking takes a significant amount of energy, effort, and willpower, which are finite resources. You don't have to ruminate on each thought that enters your mind, but when you do, that is thinking. A simple way to recall the distinction between thoughts and thinking is to remember that a thought is a noun and isn't something that we do, but something we have. Thinking, on the other hand, is a verb and is something we do. It is the act of engaging with our thoughts. Let's do a quick thought experiment to explore this difference. What is something you've been dreaming about doing but haven't done yet? Pause here and wait for an answer to surface. Sit with the initial thought of what you want to do and become aware of how it makes you feel. Now let's dig deeper. What would it take to make that dream a reality? What are the reasons you have or haven't done it yet? What is holding you back from making it happen? How do these further questions make you feel? Sit with those emotions and see what comes up for you. Now let's review what happened. When I asked you what you dreamed about doing, your answer was a thought. If it truly was a dream of yours, then initially you likely felt inspired, expansive, and excited by it. Then I asked you to think further about your answer, to consider what it would take to make it happen and what is holding you back. After thinking about those questions, did you notice a shift in energy? You likely felt heavier, disappointed, frustrated, and maybe even a bit fearful. The answers were probably more judgmental and negative compared to your initial answer of what you wanted to do. You may have been thinking about how it's impossible, how you could fail, what other people might think of you, how you're not good enough to do it, or how it's just a pipe dream. If this exercise did not bring up anything negative for you, that is okay. The purpose of the thought experiment was to help you identify the moment a thought shifts into thinking and rumination. We all have different scenarios that prompt this for us, so if this one doesn't resonate with you, you can create your own thought experiment by recalling a situation that caused you to overthink and identifying the initial neutral thought and the subsequent thinking that caused the emotional suffering. Thoughts are intrinsically neutral, but the moment we begin thinking about our thoughts, we get taken on an emotional roller coaster. This is what I mean when I say that thinking is the root of our suffering. The initial thought of your dream didn't cause any suffering until you began thinking about the thought. The good news is that it is not necessary to think about our thoughts or judge them. We may believe that thinking is useful, but it is an illusion that causes us to experience negative, unwanted emotions. The only useful and helpful thing was the initial thought that popped into your mind when I first asked what you dreamed of doing. All of the thinking that happened after was destructive and unhelpful. To help illustrate this idea, take a look at the following scenarios. In each, notice the difference between the initial reaction, the thought, and the negative rumination that occurs when one begins thinking about the thought. Situation. An event. Thought. Neutral observation or intuitive prompting. Thinking. Negative judgment or story about the thought. Situation. It is raining. Thought. It is raining. Thinking. Why does this always happen to me? This is the worst. This ruined my day. Situation. You lost your job. Thought. I lost my job. Thinking. I'm not good enough. Everyone is judging me. I'll never recover from this. This is unfair. Situation. You arrive at work and find it unfulfilling. Thought. I want to quit my job. Thinking. What if I can't find another job? I might hate the next job even more. I'm not good enough to get another job. Why would anyone hire me? Situation. It is the weekend and you are deciding what to do. Thought. I want to start a new creative hobby. Thinking. It's a waste of time. I'm not creative. I'm not good at it. Other people are going to judge me. Thoughts create. Thinking destroys. As soon as we begin to think about our thoughts, we cast our own limiting beliefs, judgments, criticisms, programming, and conditioning onto them. Without the step of thinking, we can prevent all negative programming and judgments from tarnishing the initial thought of what we want to create. So what do thoughts look like without thinking? To return to our experiment, if I asked you to think of some ways you could make your dream a reality, if you sat there long enough, you would experience the same phenomenon of having spontaneous thoughts pop into your head of ways you can make it happen. These are thoughts of creation. Thoughts have the quality of being infinite and expansive and of feeling energetically aligned with you. They make you feel excited, lighter, and alive. As soon as you begin thinking about your thoughts, you'll immediately feel heavy, restricted, and limited, along with a cascade of negative emotions. This is how you'll know you're thinking. Our emotions are an internal radar system that tells us if we are experiencing thoughts or have fallen into the trap of thinking. What follows is a chart that compares different attributes of thoughts and thinking to help you identify which one is which within your mind. Try going through a few examples of thoughts you've had today and use the chart to check if what you experienced was a thought or if it was thinking. Thoughts versus thinking. Attribute. Source. Thought. Universe. Thinking. Ego. Charge. Thought. Neutral. Thinking. Negative. Weight. Thought. Light. Thinking. Heavy. Energy. Thought. Expansive. Thinking. Restrictive. Nature. Thought. Infinite. Thinking. Limited. Quality. Thought. Creative. Thinking. Destructive. Essence. Thought. Divine. Thinking. Mortal. Feeling. Thought. Alive. Thinking. Stressful. Emotion. Thought. Love. Thinking. Fear. Sense. Thought. Wholeness. Thinking. Separateness. Effort. Thought. Effortless. Thinking. Laborious. Root. Thought. Truth. Thinking. Illusion. Time. Thought. Present. Thinking. Past. Future. Questioning your own thinking creates space for new thoughts to change your life. Chapter 5. But don't we need to think positively? Our most natural state is joy. It is the foundation for love, compassion, healing, and the desire to alleviate suffering. Deepak Chopra. You may be wondering, if thinking creates negative emotions, can I completely remove negative emotions from my life by stopping thinking? Is that even something I should want? While decreasing our thinking is the key to reducing our suffering, our goal isn't necessarily to stop feeling negative emotions altogether. Some of these emotions can be helpful, such as fear when walking down a dark alley alone with no one else in sight, or unhappiness, letting you know it's time to leave behind a relationship that is no longer serving you. These emotions serve as guidance to help us create better circumstances and environments for nurturing our growth. However, dwelling in a state of fear or negativity when there is no immediate threat to our survival is more harmful than helpful. The goal is to decrease the amount of time it takes for us to regulate our emotions and return to a state of peace when we experience something stressful. This will enable us to decrease the suffering caused by thinking as much as possible. When I mention that thinking leads to negative emotions, most people assume that we must, therefore, have positive thoughts or think positively in order to feel positive emotions. But this is not the case. While positive thoughts can lead to positive emotions, it is not the only way to experience them, nor is it required. Let's further investigate with this question. Throughout your life, have you felt joy only when you've had positive thoughts? Of course not. It would be exhausting if we had to constantly recall happy memories, imagine an ideal future, or list everything we're grateful for every second of the day just to feel joy. We would drive ourselves crazy, and it simply isn't sustainable. It would be difficult to function because most of our time would be spent thinking about our lives instead of actually living them. The truth is that you do not have to have thoughts or think to feel positive emotions. Positive emotions are not a byproduct of thinking, but the organic result of being fully in the present moment and connected to life rather than thinking about it. These feelings we desire are already within us. We don't have to try to force them. We only don't feel them when we begin thinking and separating ourselves from this source. Why? Because our natural state of being is joy, love, and peace. This may be hard to believe because if it's natural, then why wouldn't we always feel that way? If we want to see the natural state of something, one of the best ways is to look at its state of infancy before it's affected and conditioned by its environment. To understand our natural state, let's consider that of a child. What is a child's natural default state? Are they naturally stressed, anxious, fearful, and self-conscious? Or are they mostly in a state of bliss, happiness, and love? Children are innately open, curious, happy, and full of wonder and laughter. This is also the natural state of adults until we think ourselves out of it. Whenever you feel highly stressed, you will notice that you have a significant amount of thinking going on. The strength of the negative emotion you feel is directly proportional to how much thinking you are doing in the moment. On the other hand, the intensity of the positive emotion you feel is inversely proportional to the amount of thinking you are doing at the moment. In other words, the less thinking you have going on, the stronger the positive emotion you feel in the present. To see the truth in this, recall a recent time when you were highly stressed and anxious. How much thinking were you doing then? Quite a lot, right? Now recall a time when you were really happy. How much thinking were you doing at the time? Most likely none or very little. Now how do you feel when you're not thinking? Take a few moments to see what comes up for you. If you don't overthink it and simply let the answers surface from within you, you will realize that when you're not thinking, you experience calm, peace, or even joy. This is the secret to your serenity. An analogy to help visualize this concept is to imagine our minds have speedometers, like in a car, but instead of speed, it measures the amount of thinking. The more thinking we have going on, the higher the thinkometer goes. And if we have enough thinking going on, it'll go into the red zone. This is when we feel stressed, burned out, frustrated, and angry. It's not what we're thinking about that is causing us suffering, but that we are thinking. The only time we don't naturally feel at peace is when we begin to think about the thoughts we're having, thereby blocking our direct connection to the present. Thinking takes us away from the present moment and into the past or future, which are the only times regret or anxiety exists. You do not have to try to be present or think positively to experience love, joy, bliss, or any other positive emotions, because those emotions are our natural state when we are not thinking. More times than not, the solution to our problems is not the addition of action, but the removal of what's causing those problems in the first place. Most of us are chasing external things so that we can feel something inside, innocently forgetting that all feelings are generated within us. What is external is only a reminder that we can create the internal emotion we desire. What you most want to experience can only be found within you. Don't wait for something outside of you to give you permission to feel how you want inside. Chapter 6. How do we stop thinking? A crowded mind leaves no space for a peaceful heart. Christine Evangelou. Heaven and Hell, a Zen parable. A tough, brawny samurai once approached a Zen master deep in meditation. Impatient and discourteous, the samurai demanded in his husky voice, so accustomed to forceful yelling, "Tell me the nature of heaven and hell." The Zen master opened his eyes, looked the samurai in the face, and replied with scorn, "Why should I answer to a shabby, disgusting, despondent slob like you? A worm like you? Do you think I should tell you anything? I can't stand you. Get out of my sight. I have no time for silly questions." The samurai could not bear these insults. Consumed by rage, he drew his sword and raised it to sever the master's head at once. Looking straight into the samurai's eyes, the Zen master tenderly declared, "That's hell." The samurai froze. He immediately understood that anger had him in its grip. His mind had just created his own hell, one filled with resentment, hatred, self-defense, and fury. He realized that he was so deep in his torment that he was ready to kill somebody. The samurai's eyes filled with tears. Setting his sword aside, he put his palms together and bowed in gratitude for this insight. The Zen master gently acknowledged with a delicate smile, "And that's heaven." While letting go of our thinking is the key to ending our suffering, this doesn't necessarily mean that our goal should be to stop thinking entirely. Just as the goal is not to stop feeling negative emotions entirely. That would be impractical and nearly impossible. The goal is to minimize the time we spend thinking about our thoughts so that eventually we can get to the point where we spend most of our day not caught up in our thinking and live in a harmonious state more often. But how do we do this? This may surprise you, but we don't have to do anything to minimize our thinking. We only have to become aware of it and choose to let it go rather than hold on to it. Most of us have been conditioned to fight our thinking, which only worsens things and leads to the agonizing experience we call overthinking. The solution is not about doing more, but about not doing what's causing the suffering. It is not a process of force, but one of flow. By becoming aware that we are thinking and that it is the root cause of our suffering, we can detach from it, allowing it to settle and pass. While it may seem counterintuitive, the best way to end overthinking and negative feelings is to stop resisting and avoiding them. What we resist persists. What we accept and let be will inevitably leave. Here's an analogy that illustrates this concept. Imagine I give you a bowl of cloudy, dirty, murky water. If I asked you how you could make the water clear, how would you do it? Wait to see what answers arise before moving on. Most people say something like filtering the water or even boiling it. What most people don't realize is that if we let the bowl of dirty water sit for a period of time, the dirt will begin to settle on its own in the water, and after a while, the water will become clear on its own. This is how our minds work as well. If we let our thinking sit without disturbing it by trying to fight it, our internal version of filtering and boiling, the thinking will settle down on its own, and our minds will become free from thinking. The natural state of water is clear, and the natural state of the mind is also clear if we do not disturb it. If life begins to feel unclear, disorganized, and stressful, and you're not sure what to do next, it's only because your thinking is stirring up the dirt, making your mind cloudy, and making it difficult to see ahead. When you sense this cloudiness, see it as an indicator that you're thinking too much. Then, allow your thinking to settle by acknowledging it and giving it space to pass without judgment. And slowly, the mind will clear again. We can also compare thinking to quicksand. The more we fight our thinking, the more we get caught up in it, amplifying our negative emotions and worsening them. The same is true for quicksand. If we're in quicksand, the way out isn't to fight it. If we panic and frantically try to fight it, we only get pulled under faster. The only way out is to stop struggling and allow the body's natural buoyancy to take over and bring us back to the surface easily. The way to break free from our thinking is to relax our minds and trust that our natural inner wisdom will guide us back to clarity and peace like it always has. If you find yourself fluctuating between thinking and non-thinking, know that it is absolutely okay and quite normal. There is no way we can remain in a state of non-thinking every second of every day. And if we try to make that the goal, we will only end up battling our minds, ending up in a cycle of thinking again and causing ourselves to suffer. We are spiritual, infinite beings having a physical, finite experience here on earth. Because of this, we are a living gateway between the human and the divine, so we will naturally oscillate between the states of feeling anxious, stressed, and joyful, peaceful. We cannot always control or prevent the oscillation between thinking and non-thinking, but we can minimize the time spent thinking and thus create more moments where we feel joyful, peaceful, passionate, and full of love. Although not being able to control when we begin thinking or experiencing stress can feel frustrating, it is not something to worry about because we can always return to the state of non-thinking or serenity. It is just a part of our beautiful human experience. What can give us true peace is knowing that we always have this state of pure peace, love, and fulfillment lying underneath any suffering we are experiencing. This beautiful state is not something we ever lose, but only forget. And just because we can sometimes forget about it doesn't mean it's not there. Just like how we know the sun still exists even when it's dark. We are only ever one moment away from remembering we always have in our possession an infinite well of clarity, love, joy, and peace. If we find ourselves overthinking and ruminating again, all we have to do is remember that this is just our temporary thinking and find solace in knowing that the sun will rise again soon enough. Having that understanding will allow us to appreciate the nighttime for its existence and role in the universe. From that, we can see how it is meant to be a part of our human experience and begin to cherish its beauty as much as the sun. Thoughts are transient. They come and go, but you always stay. If you want to know who you are, look beyond your thoughts to experience your true nature. Chapter 7. Practical Steps for How to Stop Thinking. I swear to you that to think too much is a disease, a real, actual disease. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Learning to overcome our thinking may be simple, but not always easy. Becoming aware of our emotional states and letting go of our painful thinking patterns without fighting them will take practice. If you are still struggling with how to stop thinking, it is okay. Don't beat yourself up over it. What we need most during difficult times is not more self-criticism, but more love, compassion, and patience for ourselves. Here is a 5-step process to help you let go of your thinking, which you'll notice conveniently spells out an acronym, PAUSE. The first step is to pause and begin taking deep breaths to calm our nervous systems. Deep breaths pull our focus away from the thinking mind and into our bodies, anchoring us in the present moment. This allows us to become aware of our emotions and also detach from them. Pausing creates space between our emotions and actions, giving us the opportunity to choose a new response rather than repeating the same conditioned reactions that keep us in the cycle of suffering. Without this space, change cannot exist. Space has the illusion of emptiness on the surface. It is not empty, but filled with infinite possibilities for us to choose a new experience of life. Within the space between your thoughts and your thinking lies the peace you've been seeking. Step 2 is to ask yourself, is this thinking making me feel the way I want? Or do I want to keep suffering? These questions remind us of the power we have to choose whether we want to emotionally suffer or not. If we want to keep feeling the way we do, then we can choose to do so. We've all had times when we are not yet ready to let the negativity pass, and that is okay. But if we want peace, we can choose it by letting go of the thinking that is causing our suffering. Step 3 is to understand that you have the choice to stop and let go of your thinking. At this moment, you must decide what you want. Is it peace, or is it to continue the thinking that is causing the suffering? This can be scary, but if you trust yourself and that you will be okay no matter what happens, it becomes easier to let go. Step 4 is to say and repeat to yourself, thinking is the root cause of suffering. Reminding yourself of this disempowers your thinking, making it easier to manage because you begin to see through it. Repeating this phrase to yourself like a mantra when you begin experiencing negative emotions is a powerful practice. It is difficult for our minds to have multiple thoughts simultaneously. So, repeating a single phrase forces the brain to focus only on it rather than something else. The reason mantras are effective is not just because of the power of words to influence our beliefs, but because they reduce or even stop our minds from thinking. Step 5 is to experience your emotions fully. Most of our destructive habits and behaviors come from the avoidance and suppression of emotions. When we ignore or fight our feelings, we only make our suffering worse. We are not trying to bypass our emotions. Rather, we are trying to accept and feel them fully without judgment. Suffering comes not from our emotions, but from the thinking we attach to the emotions. What would it feel like to experience your emotions without judgment? Can you feel how there's less resistance to them? Can you feel how much easier it is to let them go? How much more liberating does that feel? We unnecessarily create our own suffering by trying to make our minds do jobs they're not designed to do. Your mind's job is to anticipate threats. Your body's job is to regulate the resulting emotions. Everything has a role. When you let your body feel and process emotions fully, without the interference of your judgmental thinking, emotions will naturally pass more easily and quickly than you realize. The mind and body will always restore balance and harmony naturally when we get out of the way. How to let go of negative thinking. Pause. To help you remember this 5-step process more easily, use the acronym PAUSE. It spells out the steps of letting go of your thinking. Whenever you're feeling overwhelmed by your thinking, pause, go through the 5 steps, and remember that you have the power to let go of it at any time. P. Pause and take deep breaths to calm your nervous system and ground yourself in the present. Become aware that you are thinking, but do not judge it. A. Ask yourself, is this thinking making me feel the way I want? Or do I want to keep suffering? If not, you always have the choice to let your thinking go in order to find peace. U. Understand that you have the choice to stop and let go of it. S. Say and repeat the mantra, thinking is the root cause of suffering, to help quiet the mind from thinking until it subsides and passes. E. Experience your emotions fully without judgment, resistance, or thinking. Don't think, just feel. Repeat this process until you have calmed your nervous system and the thinking has passed. One of the most effective ways to make this a sustainable and permanent change is to use negative emotions as a reminder that you are thinking. Then go through this process of letting go to return to a state of peace. It is important to do this throughout the day so that you minimize the amount of time you spend thinking about your thoughts, allowing you to remain in a state of peace and love longer. As with learning anything new, it is always more difficult in the beginning, but it becomes easier each time you practice it. When you have been practicing this long enough, it will become second nature to you, and peace will become your primary state of being rather than stress. This is the single most important practice you can make for your peace. You may be wondering, though, about whether any other actions can help us heal and ease mental suffering. Most modalities designed to help people reduce anxiety do work. Therapy, yoga, meditation, breathwork, and anything similar all have been proven to lower stress levels, but why do many people still suffer even when utilizing them? As I mentioned at the beginning of the book, I explored these interventions but still felt emotional turmoil. To understand why, let's dig into the specifics. Let's take meditation as an example. When I meditated in the morning, the session felt wonderful, and I was able to feel more at peace during the practice. But within an hour or even minutes after, all of the anxiety would come rushing back. 15 minutes of meditation for only 15 minutes of peace did not seem like a great investment. The benefits of these practices did not outlast the practice. I was so frustrated because almost everything I tried had similar results. Then I asked myself, what is happening during these practices that allows me to experience peace? This is when a light bulb went on in my head. What was happening during the practice was that I wasn't thinking. But as soon as the session ended, I began thinking again, which is why all of the anxiety came back shortly after. It wasn't the modality that didn't work. Rather, I was not addressing the root of the problem, so my thinking would always return and prevent the modality from continuing to work. As soon as I shifted from only letting go of thinking during healing practices to doing so throughout my day, everything changed. Slowly but surely, my days started shifting from being anxious and stressful most of the time to being peaceful the majority of the day. This transformed a practice that only worked while I was doing it into a state of being I could experience in every moment. So, as to the question of whether these modalities can help, they very much can. However, they are most effective when viewed as tools to expand our awareness and help us practice letting go of our thinking. The important thing to recognize is that we need to take with us the non-thinking skills we learned during these other practices and continue to use them throughout the day. The concept of non-thinking is not meant to replace any practice you currently have, but to complement, enhance, and prolong the effects of what you already do. One of the greatest powers we possess is choice. Chapter 8. How can we possibly thrive in a world without thinking? Anxiety is thought without control. Flow is control without thought. James Clear. Now that you've come to the realization that thinking is the root cause of suffering, you may be wondering, how can I possibly thrive in the world without thinking? To answer that question, let's consider a different one. What thoughts are going through your head when you're doing your absolute best work, when you're fully captivated and entranced by what you're doing in the moment? Take a moment and see what answer comes up for you. If you still haven't had any insight from an answer, here's another question that may help. When you love what you do and are so completely immersed in it that you lose all sense of time and space, in other words, enter a flow state, how much thinking is going on at that moment? Pause here and wait for an answer to arise. Isn't that an interesting phenomenon? When you're doing your best work and are in a total state of flow, there is no separation between you and the work you are doing. Little to no thinking is happening in the mind. Your self-judgmental chatter is minimal or even silent. And if you have thoughts, they are neutral, constructive, or creative. They aid you in the activity you are engaged in and flow right through you without you having to think about them. In other words, the state of peak performance for humans can be described as the state of non-thinking. It may come as a surprise to you, but we do our best work when we aren't thinking. Here's another example that illustrates this idea from another perspective. When professional athletes are competing, do you think they are thinking and overanalyzing every single thing that's happening during the game? How much thinking do you imagine is going on during the competition for them? The highest performing athletes will describe their peak state as being in the zone. This zone is the state of flow or non-thinking. I use both terms in this book. Know that they are interchangeable. In Japanese culture, there is a beautiful word to describe this phenomenon, mushin, which is often translated as no mind. Here is the definition of mushin in practice from the Shurakan Times. Mushin is achieved when the mind is free of random thoughts, free of anger, free of fear, and particularly free of ego. It applies during combat and/or other facets of life. When mushin is achieved during combat, there is an absence of loose or rambling thoughts. It leaves the practitioner free to act and react without hesitation. He reacts according to all of the study and training that has brought him to this point, relying on not what you think should be your next move, but on what your trained, instinctive, subconscious reaction directs you to do. After practice, thinking hinders the performance of athletes, and the same is true for everyone. We only hesitate, are reluctant, and have doubts when we begin thinking and overanalyzing. We function and perform our best and embody our full potential when we enter a state of non-thinking. Because there is no separation when we are in a flow state, we can say that it is a state where we are in direct connection and alignment with the universe, God, infinite intelligence. Thinking blocks this connection we have with the divine, causing us to feel stress, frustration, anger, resentment, depression, and all of these negative emotions many of us feel daily. This is why some religions describe hell as a complete separation from God. Many attribute the state of non-thinking or flow to a particular activity that we love to do, which creates a misconception that that's the only time we can be in flow. This is only half true. We can be in a state of non-thinking at any point in time as long as we are rooted in the present moment. Only in the present moment can the truth be found. This is why mindfulness instructors, spiritual masters, and even therapists share the importance of meditation, breathing, and being in the present moment. In the Bible, when Moses asks God his name, he replies, I am. God doesn't say he was or will be, because those don't exist in the now. He simply says, I am. God, truth, the universe, freedom, peace, joy, and love, these terms are all synonymous, can only be found and therefore experienced in the present. In a state of flow, grounded in the present moment, we are free from the limitations of the ego and can create the most incredible things in the world. You cannot think your way into flow, just as much as you cannot think your way into love. Both are a natural occurrence when we let go and allow the full, authentic expression of ourselves to come forth. They are a byproduct of surrender and trust. Chapter 9. What about our goals, dreams, and ambitions? There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Napoleon Hill. I think, therefore I suffer. When I finally realized that thinking was the root cause of my suffering, it was a huge epiphany for me. I felt exhilarated, relieved, and grateful that I had discovered the true reason for my negative experiences. This ecstasy was short-lived, though, because soon after the exuberance settled, the following questions popped into my mind. If thinking is the root cause of all my suffering, and I stop thinking, how do I live my life now? What about all of my goals, dreams, and ambitions? Do I need to stop wanting things in life? Will I devolve into a couch potato and not do anything meaningful with my life? As I pondered these questions, fear and anxiety began to surface because it seemed that in order to find peace and happiness, I would need to give up all of my dreams and become a monk in the middle of the mountains. I was not ready to do that, nor did I want to. As much as detaching from my life might have made my journey easier, I genuinely enjoyed being in the world and experiencing the fullness of life with other people. So what are we to do if we wish to end our suffering, but also not give up the lives we have built? To answer that question, let's return to the concept of thoughts versus thinking. As we discussed previously, each has a different source. Thoughts come from the universe or our higher selves, while thinking comes from our own egos. The source dictates whether it causes suffering or not. Similarly, where our goals and dreams come from will determine how we feel pursuing them. The key is understanding the difference. There are two sources of goals: goals created out of inspiration and goals created out of desperation. When goals are created out of desperation, we feel an immense sense of scarcity and urgency. They feel heavy, like a burden, and we may feel daunted by the colossal task we've just committed ourselves to. Imposter syndrome and self-doubt begin to manifest, and we feel like we're always short on time. We go about our lives frantically, desperately searching for ways to accomplish our goals faster, always looking externally to fill the void we feel internally. Worst of all, if we achieve the goal, soon after, all of those feelings of lack begin to resurface again. We start feeling discontented with what we've done, unable to savor our accomplishments, and because what we did never feels like it's enough, we feel the same way about ourselves. Not knowing what else to do, we look at what others are doing for guidance and see that they're continuing to do the same thing. Thus, we proceed to set another goal out of desperation in an attempt to escape all the negative feelings gnawing away at our souls. When we dig a little deeper into these types of desperation goals, we see that they're all typically means goals and not end goals. In other words, we want to accomplish that goal in order to get something else, which is why these goals make us feel that we never have enough. An example of this would be having a goal of becoming famous in order to finally feel significant. Unless you address the internal root worry that you're not good enough, achieving this external goal will never change how you feel. Ironically, if we achieve a goal created out of desperation, we end up feeling even emptier than before. So, we set an even bigger goal, and then an even bigger one, never reaching a state of fulfillment. No matter how hard we try, or how big of a goal we set, it seems as though it will never be enough. If you have experienced this, know that you are not alone. This is how most of us set our goals and live our lives. The only reason I can describe it in such detail is that this is how I lived my life as well. Here's the good news. It's not your fault if you set goals that way. It's what so many of us have been taught to do, and there's a way out through creating goals and dreams out of inspiration instead of desperation. When we create goals out of inspiration, it's an entirely different story. In this state, we are creating because we feel deeply moved, inspired, and expansive. Our goals feel like a calling rather than an obligation. We feel like a powerful force of life is coming from within us, wanting to be expressed through us and into the physical world. This is why painters paint, dancers dance, writers write, and singers sing, even if they never get paid or make a living from it. We feel pulled instead of forced to create something. We gravitate towards it. We feel compelled to do it. When we feel like this, we create from a place of abundance instead of lack. Most of us had goals from inspiration when we were kids: to act on stage, to cook like a chef, to write a book, to explore space, to make art, to save animals, to heal people, to invent something, to make people laugh. What did you dream of doing when you were a kid? How would it feel just to do it for fun to any degree you can? This will reveal to you some of the goals of inspiration you may have forgotten about. Even as adults, we naturally have goals of inspiration. It could be starting a charity, business, hobby, or animal shelter. It could be raising a family, traveling the world, living off-grid, growing a garden, learning a new language or instrument, running a marathon, or starting a blog. When we create goals out of inspiration, we are not creating from a place of lack. We don't create because we feel like we have to or we need more. We create because we want to. This type of creation is an overflowing of love and joy for life. This is the reason why most of us want or have children, not because we want something from them, but because we want to share the abundance of what we have with them. This feeling of deep inspiration comes not from us, but through us from something greater than ourselves. I call this feeling divine inspiration because our ideas of what we want to create seem far bigger than we could have imagined or come up with on our own. It knows no boundaries, limits, or constraints. It's an expansive force that energizes and lifts us, making us feel high on life. In this state, we feel whole, complete, and filled with unconditional love, joy, and peace. It's one of the greatest feelings we can experience. Everyone has experienced this feeling of pure inspiration. Before moving on, pause and spend a moment recalling a time in your life when you felt an overwhelming desire to create something magnificent because you felt deeply inspired to. It doesn't matter if you actually created it or not. Just think of a time when you felt that feeling of inspiration. Isn't it just one of the most amazing feelings in the entire world? Most of us feel this divine inspiration, but then suppress it as soon as we begin thinking about bringing it to life. We begin to think ourselves into doubt, rationalize why we can't achieve these goals, and tell ourselves that they are unrealistic, that we should focus on more important things, and that we're not good enough. As soon as we begin to think about the thought of wanting to create, we completely shut off the source of that inspiration, and we go back to living life in desperation. When we cut off that source, we also cut off feelings of abundance, vitality, ecstasy, joy, and unconditional love, and go back to feelings of doubt, anxiety, frustration, and sadness. When we live a life of non-thinking, we don't stop having goals and dreams. We just create goals and dreams out of inspiration instead of desperation. So how can you tell whether a goal is created out of inspiration or desperation? Goals created from desperation and inspiration look very similar from the outside, but they differ greatly under the surface. A simple way to know if a goal or dream is created out of inspiration is to remember the distinction between thoughts and thinking. Goals and dreams that come in the form of thought are created out of inspiration. Goals and dreams that come from thinking are created out of desperation. Goals from desperation are typically rooted in fear and make your happiness conditional on achieving them. Goals from inspiration are rooted in love and focus more on the joy of doing over the outcome. The joy comes from the act itself, not just what you externally get out of it. The reason why you create the goal will determine how you feel while pursuing it. Goals of inspiration come from identifying what you value and what is most important to you. Is it security? Raising a loving family? Traveling? Creativity? Learning? Peace? Expressing yourself? Goals of inspiration are aligned with your values, while goals of desperation contradict them. For this reason, one person's goal of inspiration can be another person's goal of desperation. It all depends what your values are. For an author who values their craft but feels driven by a sense of insecurity, an example of a goal created from desperation would be to want to hit the bestseller list because it would finally make them feel like they were good enough. A goal created from inspiration would be to write a book because they love the act of writing with their whole being. The first goal was created to try to prove they are good at what they do, external validation, and the second was created because they simply love what they do. The second aligns with their values, while the first does not. But for an author who primarily values spreading their message as far as possible, the opposite might be true. For this person, reaching the bestseller list could be a goal of inspiration. It all depends on understanding our own personal value systems. For most of us, however, goals born from a love of the work itself will lead to greater happiness than goals based on achieving a certain output. And more times than not, falling in love with what you are doing in the present will allow you to achieve many of those external goals you previously had as a byproduct. Love will take you further than sheer effort ever will. I want to emphasize that I'm not saying we shouldn't have financial goals. There are no right or wrong goals, only goals created from inspiration or desperation. What matters is the source of the goal, not necessarily the goal itself. For instance, if a person values safety and stability for their family, a goal of making money in order to achieve this could absolutely be a goal of inspiration. But for that same person, making money in order to achieve social status might be a goal of desperation. The key is in asking yourself, what does money give me or allow me to do that I value most? It's also important to recognize that when you create a goal from inspiration, it does not necessarily mean you are meant to drop everything and devote every moment of your day to it. Most of us are not in a position to do that, but what we can do is begin taking small steps toward that goal each day. What matters is not how long you are doing it each day, but that you are doing it to some capacity every day. If your goal of inspiration is to raise the best family you can, what are you doing on a daily basis to help you achieve that goal? If it is to become the best you can be at your job, what steps are you taking each day to incrementally improve? If it is to grow a garden, can you start with one small herb? If it is to learn a new language, can you learn a word a day? If it is to travel, what are you doing each day to allow you to do so more often? You may not be able to travel each day, but you can do many things to enable you to travel more often, such as saving a bit more each day, exploring remote work options, or maybe even taking a language class. There are an infinite number of ways for you to make your goals from inspiration a reality. It's not about if you can do it, but how you can make it happen. Start small and do it at any capacity you can daily. Doing so will create more meaning and fulfillment in your life because you will be making progress on what matters most to you each day. This is how we can find more love and joy in the doing and not just the outcome. So how do we create goals and dreams out of inspiration? As with surfacing thoughts, creating goals and dreams from divine inspiration isn't something you have to try to do. We naturally have thoughts of inspiration all the time. If you look at children, they naturally have the wildest dreams of what they want to do. It almost never registers in their minds that they might not be able to accomplish something. The only difference between us and children is that we have learned to shut down these thoughts of inspiration. Imagine your inspiration is a river, and thinking is a dam. If a dam is built to block the river, it leads to the death of fish, the disappearance of wildlife, flooding, and the destruction of forests. Our thinking creates a dam that blocks the river of inspiration within our minds, leading to self-doubt, self-sabotage, and anxiety. But once the dam is removed, the ecosystem will heal and return to its natural state. The same is true for our minds. When we're tapped into our intuition and free from the blockages that come from thinking, new inspiring thoughts and ideas can freely come through us as intended, and that is how we can create goals out of inspiration instead of desperation. A question that significantly helps me settle my unhelpful thinking and tap into the limitless well of creative possibilities is this. If I had infinite money, had no fear, and didn't feel the need to receive any recognition, what would I do or create? Try asking the question and seeing what comes up for you. You'll be surprised at what surfaces when you remove the barriers of fear, criticism, and self-doubt. Let the inspiration rise to the surface, but then don't get caught up in thinking. Allow your true dreams to reveal themselves without shutting them down. To a mind without the limits of thinking, anything is possible. If you want to stay alive, nourish your body. If you want to feel alive, nourish your soul. Chapter 10. Nothing is either good or bad. There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. William Shakespeare. Picture a piano with 88 keys. When we look at a piano, we don't point out specific keys and say they are bad or wrong. We only think a particular key is wrong if it sounds unpleasant in the context of a piece of music. Outside of the context of a song, the piano has no wrong keys, only notes that can be combined in infinite ways. Just like how there are no wrong keys on the piano, there are no wrong decisions in life, only different paths. All we have to do is choose which to take. If we categorize paths as right or wrong, we close ourselves off from the ocean of opportunities available to us. Now, when I say there is no right or wrong, I don't mean this is a license to cause harm. It is absolutely not. What I mean is there is not one correct path when navigating our personal decisions on this journey of life. Knowing there is no right or wrong relieves us of the pressure to choose the right one. Take, for example, a hike up a mountain. On this hike, there will be different spots where you can stop to look at the view. There are no wrong spots to stop to take in the magnificence of nature. And by being open to all places, we can see the view from different vantage points we haven't seen before. If you judge an option too soon, you may be missing out on the most beautiful view yet. Even an option that seems lesser may hold unexpected benefits if you explore it further. Instead of looking for right or wrong, good or bad, look for truth without judgment. But beware of falsehoods that you may have convinced yourself are the truth. The truth is rarely in the extremes, but somewhere in between. The actual truth is not subjective. If it is true for one person, but not for another, then it is not a universal truth. Look for what is universally true for every conscious human being on the planet, no matter who they are, where they're from, and what their background may be. That is the truth, and where you'll find everything you've been searching for. Remember that the truth is only ever inside, so don't try to look for it outside of you. What you obtain externally can always be lost, but what you find within yourself can never be taken away. An intelligent person is constantly learning. A wise person is always unlearning. Chapter 11. How to follow your intuition. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Steve Jobs. Although there are no right or wrong decisions we can make, just like there are no right or wrong keys on a piano, there are decisions that are more aligned with us than others, depending on the context. So then, how do we choose which path to take? When we make decisions, we want to rely on non-thinking. The more we try to think, analyze, and ask for outside opinions, the more it causes unnecessary anxiety and frustration. Most of the time, we already know deep down what to do. This is often referred to as your intuition, gut feeling, or inner wisdom. When we seek outside counsel, we're actually just looking to confirm what our intuition is already telling us. But inviting an outside opinion will more than likely lead to more self-doubt. Only you can know what is right for you. No one else can tell you this. There will be mentors and teachers who can offer guidance, but the best ones will tell you to listen to your intuition and look within yourself for the answer. The truth is only ever within you. This is why many of us experience regret after following another's advice. Deep down, we know we shouldn't have ignored our instincts. Your intuition will always lead you to where you need to go. It is a real-time inner navigation system that will tell you when to take a detour and which path to follow if you encounter a roadblock. It will guide you to exactly where you need to go, but the path it takes may surprise you. Do not doubt yourself. Trust that your intuition is bringing you exactly where you need to be. So what does following your intuition look like? When you're following your intuition, you're tapped into something greater than yourself. You're in a state of non-thinking and in direct connection with the universe. Intuition is not a form of thinking. It's a sense of knowing. You're not thinking about what to do, you just know what to do. It's not about making the right choice, but about trusting yourself and understanding you are choosing what is best for your current situation. Instead of trying to make a decision based on whether something is right or wrong, good or bad, make it based on the decision that feels most expansive and aligned with who you are and what you value most. Your intuition will tell you what that choice is when you ask. When you follow your intuition, you are guided by an innate intelligence we all have, and you will always know what you need to do. To return to a concept from a previous chapter, trusting your intuition is how you operate when you're in a flow state. When you're in this zone, tasks seem effortless, and you open yourself up to information and opportunities beyond your logical mind. Intuition is how mothers know how to take care of their newborns without having much or any training. It's how you know your friend may not be fine, even though they say they are. You likely use your intuition more often than you're aware of. When considering intuition, many automatically assume it's only used within creative tasks and projects. But it is also highly useful in navigating life whenever there may not be one obvious right answer. It is that gut feeling that tells us to leave or to start a relationship or job, or to move to a new place. It tells us when to marry someone or start a family, what new thing we should try, or which old habit we should stop, and whether to talk to a stranger who might end up becoming a close friend. It is that still, quiet voice that always nudges us towards the things we need and the things that will help us grow most in the moment. Fear keeps us where we are. Intuition leads us to who we want to be. This does not mean we should not use our intellect, logic, and reason. Rather, it is about using them without negative judgment and trusting our intuitive decisions so that we don't end up in a spiral of overthinking and suffering. The key is to use our thoughts instead of thinking. For example, if we are cooking with a recipe or brainstorming new ideas for work, we want to use our thoughts to help guide us. This means neutrally observing the situation and responding accordingly, but without attaching judgment to it. Too often, our thinking will kick in when executing these actions and we'll end up thinking, "I'm not a good cook," or "I never have any good ideas." This negative story we create around the task is unnecessary and unhelpful. Our thinking minds will convince us that we must have everything figured out. But buying into this belief will only cause additional stress and suffering. We don't have to have it all figured out, nor can we. How can our limited minds possibly understand and try to manipulate the entire world to our desires? The great news is that we don't have to know everything. All we have to do is trust in our intuition and have faith that our inner wisdom will show us the best way forward. When you ask people who are the most abundant, joyful, and successful how they made it and what led them to make the decisions they did, if you keep digging and asking why, they will eventually reveal that they followed their intuition. If they had listened to only logic and reason, they would have never taken a leap of faith to pursue their dreams. Our intuition can see things the mind cannot. Most of the greatest achievements and creations of our time were once deemed impossible and therefore irrational to attempt. But we do not live in a world of impossibility. We live in a world of infinite possibilities. Following our hearts can be risky, but we guarantee our unhappiness when we do not. Your intuition is usually the choice that makes you feel a tinge of fear because it requires you to step into the unknown to create a new reality rather than stay in your familiar one. Nothing that grows can stay the same, especially you. Diving in headfirst to explore the unknown is something humans were created to do and cannot resist. The unknown is where we feel most alive. Although our minds crave certainty, our hearts desire freedom. We live in an illusion of certainty. Most of what we have can be lost or taken away at a moment's notice. We all know the only constant is change, yet we spend most of our energy trying to fight what is natural and inevitable, and wonder why we are suffering so much. It is not change that we should fear, but staying the same. Most things in life are out of our control. This is not to say that we should give up because we can't control our lives. It's quite the opposite. The path to peace is not to pursue certainty, but to relax into uncertainty, to surrender to the ebbs and flows of life, and accept things as they are instead of how you think they should be. It's not about trying to force things to happen a certain way, but about trusting that you will be okay, no matter what happens. While we can't control everything that happens, we can always control our reactions, and therefore our emotions. This is how we can choose to be happy, by choosing to let go of our thinking. Isn't that what ultimately matters at the end of the day? It's not what we have, but how we feel inside that is the true measure of success, joy, and fulfillment. We have the gift of imagination, which means our creative potential is limitless, but we create stress for ourselves when we think we need to figure out the how to make it happen. At this point, most people give up or continue down the path of brute force to try to bring it to life and suffer daily for it. We tell ourselves we must suffer for what we want, but that is not true if we trust our intuition instead. Our job is determining what we want, not necessarily how to get it. The how is up to the universe, and delegating this responsibility is ideal because there are an infinite number of ways to bring about what we want in life. Our intuition will rarely show us every detail of how we can create what we imagine, but it will always show us the very next step to take in the present moment. Trying to figure it all out in advance will only lead to overthinking. The path forward is only revealed when we begin walking. We can always get what we desire in life. It just may happen in a different way or at a different time from how or when we expect it to happen. Our intuition speaks to us all the time. You know that small voice inside that somehow constantly knows what you should do? It's that gut feeling you get when you know what you need to do. Have you ever regretted not following that feeling? Have you ever felt compelled to do something for no logical reason, but then amazing things happened when you followed it? That is your intuition. Our intuition speaks to us through thoughts and feelings. But remember, there is a stark difference between thoughts and thinking. Thinking is the negative judgment of our intuition, the worry that blocks us from following our hearts. Your intuition is the choice that feels most expansive, aligned, and unknown. It is always calm, clear, direct, and unattached. It will often go against your logical, rational mind, so be prepared. It will tell you to grow, to be more creative, and to try new things. It will softly beckon you to pursue what you truly want instead of following what everyone else says you should want. When you follow your intuition, you create a life of freedom, love, and joy. So why don't more people listen to their intuition? Because of fear. Listening to our intuition can be daunting. This is because our intuition lives in the realm of the unknown. We fear the unknown because it's unpredictable. But it's only when we step into the unknown that we can begin opening ourselves up to opportunities to create a different experience of life than the one we're living. Other people may not agree with your decisions, but you are not here to sacrifice your peace for other people's preferences. You are here to learn, grow, and love. And many times, doing what will help you grow the most will make others around you uncomfortable because they are not ready for it. And that is okay, because everyone grows on their own time. But you don't have to let other people's fears become your reality. Don't let them stop you from doing what makes you feel alive and inspired. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or can't, you're right." If we live our lives thinking we can't, we block ourselves from all of the possibilities of what we can do. The first step is realizing that we already know what to do. The only thing holding us back is fear. When we release the brake in our mind and realize that it's just our thinking holding us back, we return to our natural state of abundance, creativity, and pure possibility. Surrender, trust your intuition, take the next step in front of you, and let the universe do the rest. Are you making decisions to feel safe or to feel free? Chapter 12. Creating Space for Insight. Today, I make space for miracles. I recognize that it's not how big a miracle is that's important, but how much room I create for it. Kyle Gray. The story of the Zen master and a scholar. Empty your cup. Once upon a time, there was a wise Zen master. People traveled from far away to seek his help. In return, he would teach them and show them the way to enlightenment. One day, a scholar visited the master for advice. "I have come to ask you to teach me about Zen," the scholar said. Soon, it became obvious that the scholar was already full of his own opinions and knowledge about Zen. He interrupted the master repeatedly with his own stories and failed to listen to what the master had to say. The master calmly suggested that they should have tea. Once they had been seated, the master gently poured his guest a cup. The cup was filled, yet he kept pouring until the cup overflowed onto the table, onto the floor, and finally onto the scholar's robes. The scholar cried, "Stop! The cup is full already. Can't you see?" "Exactly," the Zen master replied with a smile. "You are like this cup, so full of ideas that nothing more will fit in. Come back to me with an empty cup." It is ironic how much can be written about nothing. That's what space is, nothing. When we study the universe, we realize that everything comes from nothing. For there to be creation, there must first be space. This is equally true for our minds. If you want something new to be created, such as new thoughts, you must first create space to receive these ideas. Like the teacup, if your mind is full of old thinking, you won't have space for new thoughts. And new thoughts are necessary if you want to create the change you seek. This is the flip side of using your intuition. While it is important to trust our instincts, we also want to make sure we don't close ourselves off to new ideas, perspectives, and information. If you sense yourself feeling afraid when encountering a new idea, let that be an indicator that this is a moment to dig deep and examine that fear. On the other side of that fear may be a whole world of possibility that contains what you are looking for, if you remain open to it. The goal is to find a balance so that we do not doubt ourselves, but also can walk through the world with an open mind. By challenging long-held beliefs and letting go of what no longer serves us, we create room for new ideas that can enrich our lives. The way we can create this space is through non-thinking. When we stop our strenuous mental efforts and quiet our minds, we create space for new thoughts and ideas to enter. Judgment closes the mind, while questions open it. Continually asking questions that challenge our current thinking is one of the best ways to create space in our minds. All the magic happens in this space of nothingness. For instance, all athletes go through intense training periods, but the best athletes know that they need an equally intense period of rest afterward to stay in peak performance. It is during this rest period that they recover, build muscle, and become stronger. The space they create through rest is where the progress they want from the workout manifests. We've all experienced moments where we have created space for thoughts of inspiration and had ideas spontaneously pop into our minds. You may have experienced a time when you were struggling with a certain situation or decision in your life and couldn't figure it out, but all of a sudden the solution flashed into your mind while you were showering, walking, or doing something relatively relaxing. Those are moments when we tend to create space psychologically and thus are more open and available for ideas to come. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the great German philosophers of the 19th century, who revolutionized the way we view morality and religion, had a routine practice for creating space to aid him in generating ideas. He would go on extensive walks in the middle of writing his books and would bring a small notepad with him to jot down ideas he thought of during his stroll. It is documented that Nietzsche thought out and wrote the majority of his book, The Wanderer in His Shadow, during those daily walks. Albert Einstein was a scientific genius who similarly knew the importance of this concept. When Einstein was stuck on a difficult problem, he would stop working on it and play the violin instead. As he played, the answer would spontaneously come to him, not from force, but from calming the mind and creating space for inspiration to flow. We don't have to work tirelessly to figure everything out. Even the people we deem geniuses knew that effort wouldn't always produce their greatest discoveries. Just like how rest is required for us to perform our best, space is required to help us discover the best ideas. Many times, the answer we are looking for is where we least expect it and can only be found when we take a step back to create space for a new perspective. With the correct understanding and space, we can also receive insights about any challenge we may face. We are only ever one thought, one insight, and one idea away from living an entirely different experience of life. what we do not question controls us. What we question frees us. Chapter 13. Potential obstacles when living in non-thinking. Don't think. It complicates things. Just feel, and if it feels like home, then follow its path. R.M. Drake. If you've been applying the principles in this book, I hope you've been able to find moments of non-thinking and experience the peace that they bring. If not, do not be disheartened. It will come with practice. As you continue your journey with non-thinking, you may encounter some roadblocks. Don't worry, this is a normal part of the awakening process, and you've already learned the most challenging part, to practice non-thinking and prevent negative thinking from controlling your life. But we can also work to anticipate and solve problems ahead of time so that it's less daunting if you experience them. Let's explore a few questions you may have as you continue on your journey of non-thinking. Will practicing non-thinking make me less productive? Once you have been able to experience peace, you might begin to worry that you're not as productive now, have lost your edge, or are lazier. But this couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that we are most productive when we are working in a state of non-thinking. We are more effective, have better ideas, experience less resistance and stress, and don't procrastinate as much when we're not thinking. You may find yourself working less because less time is spent on anxiety and worry. Or perhaps you finally see that rest is equally important to work, and you begin giving your body what it needs rather than ignoring it. You have begun to see how slowing down gives you a sense of peace and joy that is hard to experience while overworking and frantically trying to accomplish the next task. Things that used to cause stress no longer make you feel as anxious. If you have been living in a state of fight or flight for a while, you may have become so used to the feeling of anxiety that it feels normal. Living your life without as many of those feelings will understandably feel different and strange. This is all normal and is simply a growing pain that will dissipate with time. As you continue to live your life in non-thinking, peace will become your new normal. Does practicing non-thinking mean avoiding reality? A common misconception is that practicing non-thinking means avoiding and ignoring reality, or that it means walking through life with your blinders on. But it is the exact opposite. Living life through non-thinking is accepting reality as it is instead of what we think it should be. The practice of non-thinking is about being deeply present and holding a space of non-judgment for everything that is happening in the world around us and within our minds. Through non-thinking, we can finally confront everything we are afraid of and no longer let those fears control us. Non-thinking is how we can let go of everything that isn't reality to find peace. How can I work or solve problems without thinking? The same principle of non-thinking applies to work as it does to navigating life. In the case of work or solving problems, we want to utilize thoughts instead of thinking. When working, much of what we do is solving problems that require solutions that do not exist yet, which can only come from thoughts. When we think, we shut down ideas and criticize them, the situation, or even ourselves, creating counterproductive and unnecessary stress. In fact, we are significantly less effective and creative when we are in a fight or flight state. This type of thinking has no benefit to us or the work we produce, and rarely creates the outcome and emotions we want to experience. The following are examples of thinking during work. This is going to be so difficult. It's going to take so much time. I hate projects like this. Why does this always happen to me? I can't do this. I'm not good enough to do this. This is terrible. I'm going to fail. The following are examples of thoughts during work. Is there a better way to do this? Who can I ask for help? What if we tried it this way? What would happen if... Insert any idea, insight, or breakthrough. You may also refer to the thoughts versus thinking chart in Chapter 4 to help you distinguish between the two in the context of work. What if I begin to feel anxiety, worry, and doubt creeping back in. A reason that we may feel anxiety, worry, and doubt once we experience peace is that thinking all the time uses a colossal amount of time and energy. Most of us are used to spending the majority of our day in a state of stress, thinking. When we stop thinking, the energy we used to spend thinking is now freed up, but it hasn't been directed anywhere yet, so we tend to return to our old patterns of funneling that energy back into thinking, because that is how we are conditioned and what feels familiar. What we can do instead is channel the newfound energy into our goals of inspiration. What tends to help many people in this stage is to have an activation ritual. An activation ritual is a morning routine that helps them get into a state of non-thinking and flow. It can be any activity or routine that helps you feel grounded and allows you to practice getting into a state of non-thinking. Examples might be exercising, meditating, performing breath work, praying, journaling, or making tea. It does not matter what the activity is as long as it helps you feel centered. An activation ritual enables you to build momentum in a positive direction immediately when you wake up, so that it's easier to stay in that state of non-thinking for the rest of the day. An object in motion will stay in motion. I never understood why spiritual masters have morning routines until I understood the power of momentum and grounding to aid non-thinking. If you begin to feel like something's wrong because you feel way too peaceful and content, know that it's only your mind trying to make you think again. Your mind is the greatest salesperson and knows exactly what to say to lure you back into its vicious cycle of destructive thinking. It is in this moment that you have the choice to have faith in the unknown and stay in the feeling of happiness, peace, and love, or to go back to the old patterns of familiar pain and psychological suffering. We can either choose to be free and happy in the unknown, or choose to be confined and suffer in the familiar. If you do fall back into thinking, it is completely okay. Do not beat yourself up about it. Don't feel guilty that it happened. Punishing yourself is unhelpful because it will only exacerbate your thinking. Know that it is human to think. When you catch yourself thinking, simply follow the pause method in Chapter 7 and gently remind yourself that you have the ability to return yourself to a state of peace, happiness, and love at any time. Be compassionate with yourself as this process repeats. The transition can happen painlessly and effortlessly if you let it. To the person who is at peace with the feeling of fear, the whole universe yields. Chapter 14. Unconditional Love. The greatest power that mankind could ever achieve is the power of unconditional love. This is when people love with no limitations, conditions, or boundaries. Tony Green. I learned unconditional love from my extraordinary partner, McKenna. For most of my life, I always questioned everything. I had to know the reason why things were the way they were. I couldn't just experience life without knowing the meaning and reasoning behind everything. Naturally, as anyone in a relationship would, after about a year, I asked McKenna why she loved me. She replied that she didn't know why. She just knew she did. Then she asked me why I loved her, and I listed dozens of different reasons why. It ranged from her beautiful smile, to her adorable laugh, how pure her heart is, how much she loves her family, and how intelligent she is. The list went on almost indefinitely. We dated for 7 years before we got married, and every few months after that first time I asked, I would ask her again why she loved me. And to this day, she always answers the same way. I don't know. I just know that I love you. A lot. This answer bothered me for a long time. I didn't understand how she could possibly not know why she loved me. I could list 1,000 reasons why I loved her, but she couldn't list even one. But I loved her so much that I accepted it and continued loving her anyway. But then one day, I decided to ask myself a different question, and it led to an epiphany that changed my life forever. Instead of asking myself why McKenna couldn't list any reasons why she loved me, I asked myself, do I love her because of her laugh, or because she loves helping others? What happens if she doesn't laugh one day, or doesn't help someone that day? Do I stop loving her if she doesn't do the things I said I loved about her? I realize that if I create reasons for why I love her, then it makes my love for her conditional on those specific traits or actions, as if I would stop loving her if she doesn't do them. This, of course, is not true. At that moment, I finally realized that McKenna couldn't list reasons why she loved me because her love for me was unconditional. While there are things she loves about me, there are no reasons why she loves me. If she had reasons, it would mean she only loved me if I were exemplifying those traits. Her love for me is not based on my mood or what I do. Her love for me goes beyond all reasons and does not come from a place of reciprocity. She does not love me because I love her, nor is she loving me because of what I can do for her. She experiences an abundance of love that she gifts me unconditionally. I learned to make my love for McKenna unconditional by not placing reasons or conditions on it. There is simply an outpouring of an overwhelming and indescribable appreciation for her, and I can't help but love her no matter what. This type of love comes not from external reasons, but from within. It is the infinite source we all came from. We are all connected to this pure, unconditional love, which is the universe, God, or whichever name you choose to use. The only thing that prevents this connection is our own thinking, which creates an illusion of separation from that unconditional love. When we let go of needing reasons to love one another, there is no end to how much love we can discover. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the presence of love in the midst of fear. Chapter 15. Now what? There will come a time when you believe everything is finished. That will be the beginning. Louis L'Amour. Although this is the end of the book, it is just the beginning of a new life for you. You are only ever one thought away from peace, love, and joy. Remember this and keep it close to your heart, because it is all the hope you need when life becomes difficult. In the beginning, I promised that you would not be the same person you were before reading this book. If you began reading this book with the intention of having an open and willing mind, then you most likely have had insights that change the way you think, and thus you are not the same person as you were before. Once you see something new from an insight, you cannot unsee it. Once your consciousness expands, it cannot contract again. We may forget this from time to time and experience the suffering caused by thinking. But as soon as we become aware of this, we can find love, peace, and joy in the present. If this seems too simple, it is just your mind causing you to think again. The truth is simple and always will be. The truth is not something you think, but something you know and feel deep in your soul. Listen to that still inner wisdom inside you that knows all of this. Let it guide you through your life. We are most fulfilled when we listen to our souls. The world will tell us that we are not enough, that we are missing something, that we don't have everything we want. People will bombard us with their opinions, judgments, and advice. Know that they are innocently caught up in their thinking. They may be coming from a place of good intention, but you are not obligated to listen to them. Everything you could ever want or need is already inside of you. You are already all the love, joy, peace, and fulfillment that you seek. It is only when we forget this fact and get caught up in our thinking that we do not see it. Continue to live in this state of serenity and let go of what does not serve you. Follow your intuition and what feels expansive, aligned, and unknown. The more you do this, the more abundance you will create in your life. You are now equipped with everything you need to know about how to stop your own psychological suffering and access a state of peace, love, and joy, which is always available to you. Perhaps you have already experienced the bliss of knowing and embodying this. It is no coincidence that you have picked up this book and that we have been able to share our journey here together. It is truly humbling and an incredible gift that you have allowed me to guide you through this infinitely beautiful experience we call life. Keep sharing your love and light with the world. From my heart to yours, Joseph. Transformation is not a result to be achieved, but a byproduct of letting go to be experienced. Practice. This section contains guides designed to help you implement non-thinking into your daily life. The guides are split into two themes, inner work and outer work, to help you integrate non-thinking into both your inner world and your approach to the world around you. While letting go of overthinking is a simple concept, it is by no means easy to put into practice. If you are struggling with it, it is okay. Most of us have been stuck in our own thinking for decades and have never tried to stop. It will understandably be different and difficult. There is no need to beat yourself up for not being immediately good at something new. Give yourself compassion and space to experiment as we do with children when they are learning something for the first time. The more you practice, the better you will get. Trust that it will come with time. The fact that you are here means you are already well on your path to peace, and it is inevitable if you stay the course. Inner work. The following guides focus on the inner workings of your mind. They lead you through practical steps to combat overthinking and instead implement non-thinking to help you find more peace throughout your day. The absence of thinking, self, is the presence of peace, divine. How to let go of negative thinking. Pause. To help you remember the 5-step process for letting go of your thinking, use the acronym PAUSE. Whenever you're feeling overwhelmed by your thinking, pause and remember that you have the power to let go of it at any time. P. Pause and take deep breaths to calm your nervous system and ground yourself in the present. Become aware that you are thinking, but do not judge it. A. Ask yourself, is this thinking making me feel the way I want? Or do I want to keep suffering? If not, you always have the choice to let your thinking go in order to find peace. U. Understand that you have the choice to stop and let go of it. S. Say and repeat the mantra, thinking is the root cause of suffering, to help quiet the mind from thinking until it subsides and passes. E. Experience your emotions fully without judgment, resistance, or thinking. Don't think, just feel. Repeat this process until you have calmed your nervous system and the thinking has passed. Potential obstacles and solutions. As you are working on letting go of your thinking, you may run into some potential obstacles that make it difficult. Here are some common things that will keep you in a state of anxiety and fear, as well as the solutions. Not wanting to let go. Sometimes you may not want to let go because you believe it's what got you to where you are. While this is partially true, it's important to recognize that what got you here won't get you there. If you want to break the vicious cycle of suffering and the same self-destructive patterns repeating in your life, you'll have to do something different. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. The real question is, do you want to be at peace or not? If you remember that thinking is the root cause of all your suffering and decide that you do not want to be unhappy any longer, then you will be able to make the leap of faith into non-thinking. Lack of faith. It is difficult to believe that we can change our lives for the better, and it requires a big leap of faith to make that change by trusting ourselves in a different way than we have before. But for there to even be a possibility that your life could be a life filled with joy, peace, and love every day, you must first believe that it is possible. You are part of something much bigger, the life force that has been taking care of and guiding you this whole time. Universe, God, intuition. Having faith in our intuition without being able to fully comprehend it with our finite minds is difficult and even scary, but it is how we can experience total peace in our lives instead of worrying about and trying to control everything. Fear. It is perfectly normal to feel fear when trusting the unknown. In fact, it would be strange not to. Fear is an indication that something is important to us, so this is a sign that your mind is trying to protect you. Everything we want is on the other side of fear. The way out is by going deep within yourself to see and know that you will be okay no matter what. You might not be able to eliminate the fear, but you can recognize that this fear cannot and will not kill you. Yet, if you listen to it, it will take the life of your dreams instead. Fear is only an emotion, one that you are more than strong enough to hold space for. The way out of fear is by breathing through it and following the pause framework. Thinking is the root cause of fear. If you don't think, there is no fear. A guide to neutralizing fear. The only thing stopping us from doing what we truly desire in this world and following our intuition is fear, which is created from our thinking. This is why thinking is the root cause of all psychological and emotional suffering. Although our fear will tell us that we are afraid of external things, such as a negative event, really what we fear is how we imagine we'll feel if an undesired outcome happens. Fear is internal, not external. This is great news because we can always change and let go of what is internal. To overcome fear, you must question what it is you are truly afraid of, and then see the truth behind this fear. That it is an illusion designed to keep us in our comfort zones, and nothing more. It is only when we see what is actually happening in our minds that we can let go of it to be free. Most of the time, when we feel fear, we try to suppress or avoid it, which only ends up magnifying the fear and giving it more power. When we have the courage to accept and examine our fears and look at the truth beyond our thinking, the illusion of the fear dissolves, and we fall back into peace. In this state of non-thinking, a state of pure presence and complete peace, we always know what to do and may move toward it, even if the fear lingers. In this state, fear cannot hold us back any longer. When you are feeling afraid, use the following guide to neutralize the fear and work through it. If you do this, all of your greatest desires await you on the other side. Define the fear. What are you afraid of? Be specific. Inquire and examine what's behind your thinking. Take a closer look at the fear. Remember that what you're truly afraid of is not what you think will happen, but how you think it will make you feel if it happens. What are you afraid of feeling? 1. If what you're afraid of happens, what are you worried it will mean about you? What conclusions have you drawn about yourself? Example: if insert what you're afraid of doing or what might happen, then it means I'm insert conclusion. 2. Is this conclusion valid? Or is it a story you've been telling yourself? 3. How does this conclusion, thinking, make you feel? 4. What is it costing you to continue believing this thinking? Write down as much as you can with specificity and really feel it. Be as detailed as possible. 5. Can you see how this thinking creates a condition that causes you suffering? 6. Are you ready to stop believing in this thinking and let go of it? 7. How does it feel when you imagine letting it go? 8. What is your intuition telling you right now? 9. How does your intuition feel in comparison to your thinking? Set an intention to continue following your intuition and remember that you can repeat this exercise anytime you need it. A guide to non-thinking decision-making. One of the most difficult parts of adopting non-thinking is learning to make decisions by listening to and trusting our intuition instead of falling back into our old patterns of overthinking and ruminating. Use the following guide to help you create a new behavior for yourself. Define the decision. Write down the decision you are trying to make as simply as you can. Inquire and let go by asking yourself these questions. 1. What are you afraid will happen if you make this decision? 2. If you dig deeper, what are you actually afraid of? What is the feeling you fear? 3. What story is this fear telling you? Write out exactly what it is saying in great detail without filtering anything. Do you have evidence that this story is true? Or might it be just a story? 4. What's the cost of listening to this thinking and fear? What is it costing you personally, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. List as much as you can. 5. Can you see how much suffering this thinking is causing you? Are you ready to let go of it now? 6. If you let go of all external opinions, advice, and influences, what do you intuitively know you want to do? What decision feels most expansive and aligned with you? 7. How would it feel to follow your intuition? 8. Write down what your intuition is telling you and what it is inviting you to do right now. 9. Can you see how following your intuition will help you feel the way you want and create the life you desire? If you are ready, make the commitment now to follow your intuition even if you feel fear. You are greater than your fears and stronger than you think. Let go and trust you will be okay and that things will work out for you. A guide to overcoming destructive habits. As you create more space and learn to let go of your thinking, you may become aware of a lot of negative, destructive habits that are making you more prone to suffering. The following guide can help you break these destructive habits. Become aware of the behavior you want to change and confirm that you genuinely want to alter it. Understand that if you want to stop the vicious cycle of suffering, you'll have to change and let go of the beliefs you're holding onto that are creating the suffering. If you don't want to change it, there's no point in continuing forward. If you do want to change it, let's begin the process of letting go. Write down in exact, meticulous detail what happens with this behavior, what it is, how many times it happens, when it happens, etc. Don't spare any details. 1. What are you feeling in the moment right before you begin the behavior? What's the feeling that triggers the behavior? Be honest with yourself. 2. What specific thinking patterns are going on? What are you saying to yourself in the moment when this happens? Describe it in exact detail. 3. What beliefs do you have about this habit? What conclusions have you made that compel you to feel like you have to perform this behavior or action? 4. How do you feel when you believe that thinking? 5. What do you believe will happen if you don't perform the behavior? In other words, what do you believe the consequences will be if you don't perform the action? 6. Is it absolutely true that these things will happen if you don't perform the behavior? 7. Can you see how destructive this thinking is and how much it causes you to suffer? 8. Are you willing to let this thinking and behavior go now? A guide to creating momentum in your day. How you start the day will create momentum for how the rest of your day will go. For instance, if you start your day with behaviors that trigger anxiety, perhaps for you that is checking your phone or answering emails, you'll be starting your day in a stressful fight-or-flight mode of thinking, which will make it more difficult to find peace in the rest of your day. Creating an activation ritual or morning routine can help you enter a state of non-thinking and enable you to align with your highest self. This is why all the greatest spiritual masters have morning rituals or routines. To start planning out your ideal morning routine, make a list of the things that help you create a state of non-thinking. Consider behaviors as well as environmental stimuli. Then, pick only 1 or 2 items on the list and try practicing them every morning for a week. Start small and don't overwhelm yourself. After a week, evaluate your morning routine. How is it making you feel? Is it taking the right amount of time? Are you finding all the elements beneficial? Do you feel that you want to add or swap out any items on the list? If so, only make 1 change at a time, remembering that too much change too fast can be counterproductive to your goal and more difficult to sustain in the long term. Try your new routine for another week and then reflect again. Repeat this process until you have a morning routine that supports you on your path to non-thinking. Outer work. The first set of guides were created to help you end suffering and support you in mastering your inner world to find peace within. Now it is time to consider how you're interacting with the world around you as you seek to stay aligned with your true self on the path to peace. Gratitude is acceptance of what is. Hope is understanding nothing lasts forever. Peace is being unattached to what is in the mind. Designing a non-thinking environment. Your environment either will induce and support the state of non-thinking or can make you more prone to thinking. Although we create our reality from the inside out, our environment has a large impact on us, so it is important to create an environment that is conducive to non-thinking. Creating a calm space and limiting distractions can make it easier to let go of thinking, which means you won't have to expend as much effort to get yourself in that zone. Similarly, if you eliminate many of the things that you know can trigger you to go back into thinking, then it will be easier to stay in a peaceful state of non-thinking for longer. Remember that changing your environment and not yourself will not work long-term, but changing your environment can be a crucial support as you work on the important changes within. A delicate blend of both will be what you need to create a beautiful life you love. Creating a non-thinking environment. Use your intuition and ask yourself this question. What would be the most impactful things I could do right now to help myself get into and maintain a peaceful, non-thinking state throughout my day? Write down any and all ideas that come to mind, and don't filter anything. Big ideas and little ones you've tried before and ones you haven't. Maybe you have different ideas for different environments, such as home and work. Allow your intuition to speak to you and tune into what feels most aligned with you. After writing down all of your ideas, look over your list. Select the one idea that would have the biggest impact on your life and try to implement it this week. Then, try implementing the next most impactful idea once you've begun seeing the benefits of the first. Working like this, make your way down the list until you've tried everything. Start small and don't try to make too many changes at once, as too much change can be hard to sustain. It helps to journal as you go about your experiences. What was helpful? What wasn't? How did trying these ideas impact your experiences? This way, you'll have a record of your experiences and can fine-tune your system going forward. Removing thinking triggers. Step 1. List the things that make you more likely to start overthinking, ruminating, and becoming anxious. Consider ideas in each of the following categories. Physical health. The things that impact your body and can make you more prone to experiencing anxiety and overthinking. Examples: foods, stimulants, alcohol, dehydration, lack of sleep, not moving your body, and so on. Physical environment. The things in your physical environment that can make you more prone to experiencing anxiety and overthinking. Examples: noise, temperature, location, music, meditation, and so on. Digital environment. The things on your phone, computer, or TV that can make you more prone to experiencing anxiety and overthinking. Examples: checking your phone, notifications, email, and so on. Digital consumption. The media or content that can make you more prone to experiencing anxiety and overthinking. Examples: social media, news notifications, and so on. Step 2. Reorganize and rank your thinking triggers. After filling out each category, organize and identify the top 3 triggers that affect you the most within each category. Put a number from 1 to 3 beside each of those triggers, with 1 being the one that affects you the most. Step 3. Identify and implement ideas. For each of those top triggers, use your intuition to come up with ways to remove or greatly minimize the trigger and write it down. Then, choose the one idea that would have the greatest impact and try to eliminate it this week. Next, choose one to try the week after. Continue this way until you've experimented with removing each of the triggers you listed. Remember that if you try an idea and it doesn't successfully remove the trigger, you may need to come up with a new idea for this trigger. Step 4. Journal your insights and discoveries. Write down the insights you have while going through this specific exercise. What seems to be working for you, and what doesn't? Which triggers are easy to remove, and which are difficult? Do you need to try a different strategy for removing a trigger? What did you become aware of while going through this exercise? What surprised you? What patterns did you notice? What does it cost you to continue to have these triggers in your life? What would happen if you removed them? What intentions would you like to set? Creating goals of inspiration. The source of our goals determines how we feel while pursuing them. Goals from desperation breed anxiety, urgency, and stress, while goals from inspiration feel expansive, aligned, and exciting. The key is to create goals that align with what we value most instead of just striving for external outcomes or validation. Here are some questions to help you create your goal from inspiration. If you had infinite resources and never had to work again, what would you do with your time? What do you value most in life? What goals can you create that help you express those values daily? What have you always wanted to do but haven't had time or are afraid to do? What activities feel most expansive and aligned with you? What are some of your favorite ways to express your creativity? What have you dreamed about doing since you were a little kid? Look at the answers to these questions and use them as inspiration to create a goal that allows you to express and embody what you value most. They should be focused on falling in love with the activity you are doing rather than just the outcome of it. It doesn't matter how long you perform this activity each day. The important thing is that you are working on it to any small degree you can, and eventually you'll carve out more time as you go on. When you make time for what you love, it naturally grows, and so will your love for life itself. The inspiring goal does not have to be grandiose. It can be small and simple. Size is irrelevant. All that matters is how the goal makes you feel. Avoid making a goal solely around money. A monetary goal is not a goal from inspiration. Why do you want to make that amount of money? What would you do with that money? What would you love to do to make that money? Create a goal around those actions you'd love to do to earn the money, or what you'll do with the money instead. This is how you can make it focused on what you love doing, inputs, rather than what you love doing it for, outputs. You'll know you've created a goal from inspiration when it makes you feel expansive, aligned, fulfilled, and full of love. It will feel like you're feeding your soul instead of selling it. A guide to feeling more inspired in your work. Create a list of things you do in your work that drain you of energy, things you don't like doing, or that feel heavy overall. This is your energy draining list. Create a list of things you do in your work that give you energy, things that make you feel inspired, energetic, alive, and light. This is your energy giving list. Each week, eliminate one thing from your work that is on your energy draining list, and add one thing to your workday that is from your energy giving list. The goal is to get to a point where you're spending 80% of your work time doing things that are on your energy giving list. If you're not able to totally eliminate the draining task from your work, brainstorm ways that could make it more enjoyable for you. Sometimes the slightest shifts can make a world of difference in how we experience something. Daily journal. One of the best things you can do to help you on your journey to stop overthinking is to keep a daily journal to track your progress. Use it to note your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors without judgment. The more regularly you journal, the more helpful it will be to you. The insights you'll learn about your thought patterns, triggers, and modes of support will be invaluable on your path to non-thinking. The following templates can be used as guides for journaling, but there's no need to follow a prompt or template if you find it unhelpful. Try writing freeform or using prompts that you create. Use whatever works best for you and feels the most natural and achievable. Perhaps start with journaling for just 5 minutes a day. If you make this process too cumbersome, complicated, or long, it is less likely that you'll keep doing it. Living an abundant life comes from following your fears instead of letting them control you. Become curious about your fears, for they are the doorway to your dreams. Morning. Daily intentions. Without a conscious intention to follow our intuition, we default to following our conditioning. This daily journal is designed to help you break free of this pattern by bringing your intuition into your awareness. It is best to complete this journal in the morning, as it will help set you up for a day free from overthinking. What is my intuition telling me today? When I ignore external influences and advice from anyone else, what does my intuition tell me to move toward? What is my intuition telling me to try? What feels most expansive, unknown, and aligned right now? When I encounter fear and uncertainty today, how will I handle it? Write a mantra to help you remember to trust and follow your intuition today. Evening, daily reflections. These reflection questions are designed to help you become aware of the relationship between your thought processes, inputs, and the level of peace, love, and joy in your life, outputs. Positive emotions are our natural state when we let go of our thinking. Notice what happens when you focus your attention on the inputs instead of the outputs, and how the outputs take care of themselves when you do so. It is best to use this journal in the evening, as it will help you reflect on your day and learn from your experiences. Input or cause questions. Answer each of the following questions on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Then, journal about your answer to provide more of a description. How much was I able to let go of my thinking today? How much did I follow my intuition today? How much did I express my full, authentic self today? How well did I manage my energy today? How much did I follow what felt expansive, unknown, and aligned today? How much of my attention did I focus on what I value most? Output or effect questions. Answer each of the following questions on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. Then, journal about your answer to provide more of a description. What was my level of peace today? What was my level of joy today? What was my level of alignment today? How often was I in the present moment today? How much was I in a flow state today? Reflect. Now look at your inputs and outputs. Do you see a relationship between them? What impact did your inputs have on your outputs? What comes up for you after answering these questions? Do you see any patterns? What are your takeaways? What is your intuition telling you? What should you read next? Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to read this book. If you've enjoyed Don't Believe Everything You Think, you may be interested in my other writing as well. Every week, I share a new piece of writing through my Nuggets of Wisdom newsletter, which contains one simple, perspective-shifting idea to expand your mind and help you find more peace, joy, and abundance. Subscribers are also the first to hear about my newest books and projects. Join our community of seekers and sign up for my newsletter at josephnguen.org/newsletter. JOSEPHNGUYEN.org/newsletter. Don't forget to download the accompanying enhancement PDF from your audiobook provider for access to the workbook. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this John Marshall Media production of Don't Believe Everything You Think. Why Your Thinking is the Beginning and End of Suffering. Expanded Edition. Written by Joseph Nguyen. Narrated by Joseph Nguyen. Produced by Kevin Stillwell. Directed by Vasilia Danewood. Recorded at Raintree Recording Studios, Orlando, Florida. Copyright 2024, One Satori, LLC. Audio production copyright 2024 by John Marshall Media.